Live. Celtics Suns just going to be 4 tonight. Josue, not enough coffee in the world for that poor guy.
Wow.
Tuckered out. Okay.
He's gearing up for tomorrow. Earlier this week.
You know what it was? Those 2 West Coast games killed Josue. He was a trooper. He stuck in on them. He did the locker room stuff with us, and the poor dude.
You went too hard.
Poor dude never recovered. He partied too hard.
Out. Tap out.
That's why I didn't show up, man. I knew I wouldn't be able to make it.
He was trying to make it to 3 a.m. with me and John, and it just killed him.
Right.
We got to make sure we keep him on the load management program, obviously.
That stuff's not for the faint of heart here.
Josue ain't about that.
Those weeks do knock you out.
Bobby's just naturally up, and I'll wake up with text from Bobby in a group text from like 3 a.m. being like, "Wow, like some obscure basketball holding his name, some obscure basketball player looked good tonight." I'm like, "What? Like, go to bed, man. It's 3:30."
I gotta move to California bad.
Yeah, you really do.
Right. Lots of things to talk about for this game.
I want to say this right out of the top.
Okay, I want you to say it.
Let's hear it.
Let's go, Jimmy. Let's go.
I was gonna say it's sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, John. I think there was a little delay there, but what I want to say, it's very big of you to show up for this show tonight. It's very big of you.
Oh,
so
God,
round of applause, I think,
Oh.
is due for John for showing his face tonight after Kemba Walker's greatest game of the season, possibly his Celtics career. So I just want to say thank you for showing up, John.
Jimmy with the backhanded compliment. Well done.
By
this chat's gonna be blowing up.
By this logic, do we also thank
up.
Bobby? Do we thank Bobby for showing up? Because when Cornette was a DNP CD, was that also brave of him? Yeah, was that brave?
Absolutely, very brave.
Okay.
Well, in Bobby's defense, he
wasn't
was
good for Grant,
every Celtics player.
Not his matchup.
The pettiness is so ripe tonight. I'm loving it.
We live for one thing, and that's to just shove it in each other's faces. We're not here to talk about basketball. We're here to keep score with one another.
Absolutely. And I actually
before we get into Kemba, that's fine. I do want to ask you guys, similarly to the Denver game, was this a case? I mean, it's hard to look at this game and feel awesome outside of Kemba about anything. Sure, the defense I thought looked pretty good. There was some moments, some decent run from Romeo. Smart, though he didn't shoot well, I thought played a good game. Defensively, I liked them a lot. But was this a case of a Suns team that was gassed and didn't bring it tonight, or the Celtics applying the pressure? Again, similarly to Denver, I kind of had the same vibe in this one because, what did Phoenix score? 37 in the first half. How much was the Celtics? How much was them?
It was, definitely a combination of the two. There's no doubt. But when you think about Phoenix, the team that Phoenix was playing the other night, that team is going to wear you out, even if they were a little bit shorthanded. So I think the Celtics definitely benefited from a Phoenix team being at less than full strength. But you know what? You still got to go out there and get the job done. And they did. Yeah. And to me, I like the fact that they never really allow Phoenix to get any type of traction to feel as though they had control of the game. Phoenix was always in catch-up mode. And to me, that's what you're supposed to do when you have opportunities that benefit you that you have no control over. You had no control over whether the Phoenix would come into Boston after having played a really good team in the East. All you can do is make the most of that moment, and the Celtics did that.
Yeah, and we'll get to Kemba in a second, but that's the story of this one. Him coming out and just being the best player on the court, particularly when Devin Booker has destroyed the Celtics in this matchup in the past. For him to come out and rise above him the way he did and compete in that backcourt matchup that these two teams were throwing back and forth at each other was wildly impressive. This Suns team came in winners at 13 of 15. I know they're on the back end of a back-to-back, but they've been getting it done through the East Coast swing so far. They put together a frantic comeback late against Philly yesterday. So they've competed in these games. I think Boston's defense wore them out to some degree and extended that fatigue that they felt in this one. So I think the Celtics did quite a bit to exacerbate some of the stuff that Phoenix was going through. But John's right, too. There was some weird stuff going on with them through this one. Dropping defensive rebounds out of bounds. There was one play where Ayton had a loose ball right in front of him and kicked it, and just stuff like that throughout this one. And then Booker fouling out the way he did as quickly as he did felt like just kind of like, I'm going to rest up for this next one. So I don't know. This wasn't the Suns.
That could be frustration because the Celtics played them tough. So again, I'm not saying one thing. I was asking the question, which one you guys thought was was more. It might be a little bit of both, but I'm giving the Celtics a lot of credit.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, listen.
I forgot Ayton played, by the way. All of a sudden I looked up, I'm like, there he is. But anyway, that's a separate story.
We can't talk about this game without at least acknowledging the fact that the Suns just went to war last night against the Sixers. You know, 24 hours later. So that's tough. You know, if the roles were reversed and the Celtics lost this way, I think a lot of
Kemba's
Celtics
been off
fans
since Saturday.
are saying that, you know, they're coming off the back-to-back schedule loss. That being said, you know, I was happy with the performance of the Celtics. I mean, they were shorthanded too. You know, no Jaylen Brown tonight, no Rob Williams, no Evan Fournier. So let's not act like they're at 100% either. So I think, you know, with those two things, you know, noted, it was a good performance from the Celtics. A game that they kind of had a pretty solid lead throughout most of it. Certainly the second half. I know that the Suns kind of, you know, they're, you know, clawing back a little bit here and there, but Celtics kind of answered every little comeback by the Suns, and they pushed the lead back up, which was good to see. They didn't ever let it get to, you know, extreme panic mode where, you know, it was a one possession game or anything like that. So I was impressed by it. I mean, I thought that obviously Kemba Walker had, you know, the game that they needed without Jayson Tatum on tonight, without Jaylen Brown in the game. You know, that's the Kemba Walker that, you know, needs, you know, he's almost like a chameleon now. You know, he gives the game what it needs, a lot more so than maybe in previous seasons when he was just more about, you know, being the guy all the time.
Particularly with how bad Tatum was. They needed it badly in this one.
I want to get into both in a second, but I do definitely agree that the look, you're supposed to do that. You get your team on a back-to-back, they're going to come out. It's what teams do. You know, jack a bunch of threes, you know, see if they fall, you know, and if they're not, you know, it's like, oh crap, we're gonna have to try. And you know, Celtics just made them work for it, and it's really hard to do. You know, especially coming off of last night's. You're supposed to try to, you know, to wear that down. But again, you guys are right. It's hard not to celebrate wins. It doesn't matter if the other team's on a back-to-back or if they're shorthanded or whatever. The Celtics again are missing 3 of their best 6 players in this one. And, you know, you see it in those moments when Tatum's not on the floor, you know, and you don't have Jaylen Brown, how hard it is. So again, you know, Kemba was Superman tonight because they didn't just need to make up for Kemba, they needed to make up for Tatum, who had again, strangely, another weird, like, I didn't feel like he played as poorly as he shot. I actually thought he actually played a decent game, but it's a second straight game where he's just shot horribly.
Yeah, and there's no specific rhyme or reason to that other than that he's just not making shots that he normally makes. Yeah. To me, the challenge is for him to continue to find ways to impact the game positively when he's not making shots, and we're seeing him do that. But there were some weird lineups that we saw out there from the Celtics tonight, lineups that I hope we don't see much of in the future. Kemba, Peyton, Jabari, Romeo, Grant, that 5-man unit? No.
Some funky bench groups in this one. And that's why I say, too, there were some groups out there, particularly in the second half, where I was just waiting for the Suns to... They had a couple bursts in the first half.
I thought, too, I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be the time we're going to run
and they just couldn't scrap it together. And Romeo, Grant, Parker, all those guys were on the floor. How long did they get away with putting Parker at the 4 and Grant at the 5, where I'm just sitting there waiting for this to get down the 5? And I think it only got as close as 7 or 9 down the stretch there. So the Suns, particularly in that second half, just didn't have any gas amount, anything. Beyond that, the 20 turnovers. The Celtics were throwing it everywhere in this one, and the Suns just didn't do anything with it. I couldn't believe they had that 1-10-0 push in the first half. That's the only time I thought, like, all right, here come the Suns in this game. They were just kind of going through the motions tonight.
I want to say this, and I know we mentioned it, but they got Booker completely out of his game. I mean, 4 offensive fouls. He was playing frustrated. You know, they were clamping down on him. He couldn't get into any sort of rhythm whatsoever tonight. And I also want to just remind everybody that the 70 points that he scored in Boston a few years ago, that was a fake 70. Let's not forget that wasn't a real 70. I just want to throw that out there for anybody watching. That was a fake 70.
What the hell is a fake 70-point game?
A fake 70-point game is when your coach intentionally fouls halfway into the fourth quarter so that you get your guy extra possessions and get to the line and get to that 70 points because the Suns had absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That was a bullshit 70.
That was a clean 60 and a bullshit 70. It tainted the 70 because he still would have been.
And then they fired
we still would have been
his
talking about his 60-point game.
That was one of my angriest moments. I was like Jay Crowder that night. I was like, "Are we seriously doing this?"
But you know what? Here's the thing.
They were pissed after.
Guard me.
Celtics were pissed after that.
Guard me. That's Devin Booker's response. You don't want me to score 70 points? How about not letting me get the first 55 or 60 before we started trying to run it up? Guard him.
No. I was at that game. It was an unreal performance, but a fake 70.
It was like a serious.
But the last 10 points were absolute dog shit.
I remember it being
the last 10 points.
They still didn't stop.
Sully
The
first 60.
Didn't stop.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Celtics still won the game, which
they still won the game.
That's what it always comes back to. Who wins?
And then the Suns had I remember the Suns had a picture in the locker room of the 70. And then Jay Crowder was chirping at him on Instagram or something. Now they're teammate. It's classic NBA stuff, but fake 70 anyways. Just wanted to make sure that I reminded all the Suns fans watching that it was fake.
It was fake.
But he still busted. I mean, he absolutely torched them. 60.
He did.
To me, when you get past 40 points, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've brought up in the show a couple of times, just put it out there, man, it's Tatum, Booker, Jaylen Booker, Booker doesn't get the respect across the league. I think this year he's starting to because of what the Suns are doing, but you can count on one hand, scores that are better than him, straight up scores. There's not many.
Yeah,
tonight, and that's why I credit the Celtics for what they were able to do tonight. They got him completely out of his groove. He was a non-factor from pretty much start to finish. I think he had a second quarter where he had 9 points or something like that. But other than that, he was pretty invisible.
Yeah, Marcus Smart had a lot of those responsibilities, but he got a little bit of help too. But bottom line, they made Booker a non-factor, and it's rare that you ever see him play where he's a non-factor. And that was clearly the case tonight. At no point did you feel him putting his imprint on the game. And that is, again, you seldom see that happen from Devin. I mean, he only took 13 shots, which for him, I mean, we've seen him take 13 in a quarter. No, not a game.
And then when he was driving, they were in position. I know Kemba took some charges. I know that, like you said, Smart had, I think I said earlier this week, Smart took the last game off so that he could be fully ready for the Booker extension. They answered the bell. So
Smart was good. Kemba was feisty. It was, it was all around good.
I keep saying this about Kemba. I know we're going to talk about him, but his defense still to me underrated. I know the analytics don't look great there, and their on-off numbers and all that stuff with him out there isn't amazing, but he positionally is so sound.
He's in the right spot. He's like one of those cornerbacks that is stride for stride with a receiver, but never makes a play on the ball.
He's one of the top charge takers every year, too.
It's like Malcolm Butler was like that in his last year. He's always there, but and he is. Kemba positionally is right where he needs to be, and he gets the charges. But again, size is just an issue sometimes, so he can be exploited. But beyond that, he buys in. He goes for it. He's running around. He's doing his best. He draws. It feels like 2 charges every single game. Based on his physical limitations, I don't know that you can ask much more from him defensively. It just is what he is. He's a smallish point guard. He's gonna run into mismatch problems. There's nothing he can do about it. But you can't dog his effort. But I mean, again, let's talk about the game. I mean, turn black for real. Is there a better game this year just in terms of how he's looked than tonight? And again, I know the recency bias, we just saw it, but we keep talking about him getting to the rim. I mean, how many times did he not just get there clean tonight? I mean, him taking it to the hole was, I mean, he did it a ton. And then, he's hitting it obviously helps when he's hitting his threes and the little pull-ups coming off the screens but I mean, that's what I'm most impressed with is the early season Kemba. He was struggling. He could not get any points around the basket. Late stage Kemba, the last few games that we've seen him, he's getting to the rim.
He's doing a better job with that, John. But here's the thing, and Bobby, you touched on it, and we just kind of glossed over. But when was the last time we saw Kemba play? He had a huge ass time off rest.
He's looked so good with that rest this year, hasn't he?
Yes, and it's amazing how good he is when it's clear his body is feeling good. But in a playoff series where you're playing every 2 to 3 days, can he deliver that same type of consistency. Doesn't have to play this great every night, but can he play at a level that's close to what we've come to expect when we're talking about good playing Kemba? That's what I need to see more of. This is not a shock to anyone that he played well, because we've seen him do it before, but can he do it in closer proximity of the games? Not necessarily back-to-backs, but can he have like 3 games in a 7-day period where he's good in all 3? Can he do those type of things? That, to me, is when I'm going to feel really comfortable about Kemba being that guy that they can lean on once we get to the playoffs.
I got booted.
Bobby, this is you.
Drink Sherrod's talk, so.
I've just been blown away by him all month, how he's started to fit within the flow of everything. And tonight was a little different. He did have to step up into that front line role, and he's able to sense what is needed on any given night, which is what continues to impress me. And that comfort level, the burst, that stutter step into the lane. I think he hit every shot he took in the paint tonight, through a center, getting to like that last level of the defense there. That wasn't even on his radar early in this season. I remember in that opening game he had against the Knicks, there was one play where he burst by a center playing up too high, but when he had to go into traffic down there, he'd get swallowed up again and again. And now the fact that he's able to use his body, get some contact in there, draw a little more free throws. I mean, there's been some nights during this month where he's looked every bit as good as he did last year. And on this night in particular, I think there's only, I look back, like 2 or 3 nights last year where he had this level of efficiency, this level of scoring, certainly. It was like a 39 against the Nets and a 44 against the Pacers. So it didn't end up being that high scoring-wise, but this efficiency is what's been missing from him. And he's starting to even gain that back. The fact that he's gotten to a higher level in the passing game is fantastic. Again, I said it on Saturday. He looks every bit as good as he did last year at this point through this month. And it's just a huge sign for this team going into the postseason, that to have that semblance of a big 3 there.
Agreed. And I wonder how, so Jaylen Brown obviously didn't play tonight. I wonder how that changes how Kemba approaches the game. Maybe he thinks less about, having to get other guys involved. Maybe he's not worried about, taking a shot that maybe, Jaylen would typically be open for or be involved
Good point.
in. So, I mean, I do wonder if that has anything to do with it. I'm not saying that Jaylen Brown makes Kemba Walker worse. I wouldn't say that. I'm just saying that, when somebody's missing, whether it's Brown, Tatum, Fournier, obviously, Kemba Walker is able to sort of fill that role. He's able to fill the gaps and step into a bigger offensive role. And I think I think he's had it in him all season. It's just a matter of him not having, when you have Tatum and Brown out there at the same time, it's just automatic that you're not going to have the ball in your hands as much. You're not going to be taking as much shots. And maybe you're going to be overthinking a bit, and, I need to get these guys the balls. That's what everyone's kind of expecting me to do. And now he can sort of just play his game a little bit more in the role that he's used to playing when he doesn't have all that other, I guess, talent out there. So it'll be interesting to see how he adjusts, if and when the Celtics actually do end up a fully healthy team, if they can get these guys back by the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have John. John, what do you think of Kemba's performance, man?
Oh, did I not say I liked it?
I think you said you liked it, but did you expect it?
Yeah, Jimmy's such a shit starter, man. I swear.
Oh, no. He's trying. Jimmy can't find the opening. He doesn't know how to get through.
This is the thing.
He's a little fella and he's trying to find a crack. He's trying to find a seam and he can't find it.
I'm just waiting for that cam, man. Listen, I did my apology cam months ago. I think, rightfully so.
You haven't had to regret it at all.
Perfect time. And I just didn't know if you were ready for it, but you're not. It's all good. You'll get there at some point. You'll get there.
John can just keep kicking it back because there's 2 more years on that contract.
He was moving the goalposts. He's just gonna keep moving the goalposts. It's.
If they reach 2023 and he's still playing well, John's gonna have to do like an hour-long apology cam. It's gonna have to be magnified.
It would be a special. We'll do a CLNS special edition. Apology cam.
Holy crap! Those 3 years went better than expected.
So you guys believe concern? So you think the rational feeling to have entering the season with Kemba Walker was optimism? That's what you guys think?
I apologize.
The concern was way too high. People want to get rid of him at all costs.
So again, Danny Ainge said, I don't know. We'll wait and see what the first 2 months say. Kemba Walker said, I have no idea what this treatment will do. We'll have to see. Kemba Walker, after his first month of struggle, says, I kept waking up afraid I was going to feel pain. So these guys being supremely concerned about Kemba were crazy, right? They were bananas to think that this might flare up again. This recurring knee problem that he had and a Hail Mary experimental treatment. They were nuts. Danny and Brad and Kemba, those guys were crazy, right?
It's not. Don't put this on them. This is not about them. Listen, you were right to have your doubts, but at the end of the day, maybe you were wrong to have. Maybe
I felt about Kemba's knee the same way Kemba felt about his knee, and I'm crazy, right?
No, I think you probably felt worse than how they felt. I think that's what I think. I think
we're gonna have to do we're gonna have to dig deep and find out what the take was for real.
We have to dig. I have to do some. I'm gonna go pouring through the archives and find the exact. I remember the video that we did, and it was. I listen. I was just as guilty. I was very nervous, and I think rightfully so. I was.
We have the
but
quote.
At the end of the day, I was kind of wrong. At the end of the day,
we have the quote. It'd be better if he tore his ACL. That was the quote.
That was one of the quotes. Yeah, that was an infamous quote. That was an infamous quote that that's not going to go away. Yeah, Sherrod.
That's a painful receipt. That's a painful receipt you just pulled up there.
That was a hot take by John. He said it would have been better if he tore his ACL because you can fully recover from that and go on to have a career in the NBA. When it's a degenerative knee issue, that's something that doesn't go away and just gets worse and worse and worse.
I get what John was saying in that sense, but I just never, and I said this when we were talking about Holiday and all the stuff over the offseason, his deferential role in helping Tatum and Brown get where they are and his ability to fit in and not have to take that lead role in it all and still be effective in that sense was so important. And if they could get him back to any percentage of what he was early last year, if they had confidence in that procedure working, as they probably had to have some level of confidence in that, it was worth seeing what they had in him because they were never going to get anything. We can imagine trades all day long, but if there was any medical concern about him, they were never going to get anything that was worth doing a trade. So again, I don't know if it's...
That's the other thing. Another 29 teams also were super concerned about Kemba's knee.
Yeah, and I just never... I never liked the idea of them shopping him and trying to get rid of him at all costs.
But the reason why folks were so concerned was because Kemba having any type of issues that sideline him was completely foreign to his time in the NBA. I mean, you go back and you start looking at his career in Charlotte. I mean, he was the ultimate warrior, playing through a lot of different bumps and bruises. And he comes to Boston and then
never rest.
Well, right. And it just felt that, the issues that he's dealing with were just Father Time's way of saying, I couldn't catch you in Charlotte, but damn, we got to slow you down a little bit here in Boston. And I give Kemba a lot of credit, man. He's starting to figure out ways, and we've talked about this the last few games, of impacting other than being the scorer. And to me, that's when you realize that physically, you can't do all that you're accustomed to doing night in, night out. You have to find other ways to impact the game, and Kemba is doing a better job of that. But within that vein, he's going to have nights like this where he's going to be vintage Kemba, guy that's knocking down shots left and right, getting to the cup, finishing at the rim, doing all those things that have made him a multi-time All-Star. But I'm not by any means banking on the Kemba we saw tonight, seeing that night in and night out. I think we'll see that if we can get that Kemba like once every week or two, I'm good. It's those other nights where I need him to be close to being the Kemba that we saw last year, close to the Kemba that I think can be a great number 3 guy with Jaylen and Jayson.
Yeah, right. Well, that's going to be the tricky thing. How does that happen when they're all out there?
But that's the thing is, like as Sherrod pointed out, that's the number one thing that's changed over the last little bit, okay? Because we saw Kemba feeling it out the first month, not sure what he was doing, kind of in his own head. Then kind of the uptick in the second month. Third, he's still kind of figuring out. But you see these last couple of weeks that I get what I'm supposed to do now. It almost took 3 months of and Jimmy said it earlier, the giving the game what it needs. You have the games where he'll shoot 8 field. We had 2 games where we're like, Kemba didn't shoot at all. Are we worried? physically he can't get where he needs to go to get his shot off, or was that what the game needed? Like we weren't sure. We're just wondering. Like that was odd. They were single-digit field goal attempt games, and then you have other games where he shot 20 field goal attempts recently and another 17 tonight, where it was this is what the game needed. So like that's the key to Kemba is I'm sliding in as the number 3 guy on this team. So I got to figure out each day. I have to think more than the other guys. They get to play. I have to figure out in the moment what the game needs. And like him being able to do that more frequently is a big freaking deal. So like you have those 7 assists, was it 6 games straight with 6 assists plus, games where he's getting 8, he's the second leading rebounder on the team, like he's doing a lot. And it seems like every game where he's had a good game, we've talked about this is exactly what the game needed from Kemba, and it's exactly what it got. So that's, I think that's as big a difference as anything. In addition,
that's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, and me, myself included, I wasn't sure if we were going to get that from Kemba Walker because of all the things we were hearing in the offseason and because of what Danny Ainge was saying.
And because we're worried about the fit with those guys.
What Kemba Walker was saying and the fit and how we thought, and I thought he was going to probably miss time until literally, I thought he would miss all of March. I was like, oh, this guy's not going to be back until, mid to late March at the best. And I was wrong about so many of those things. I wasn't crazy, I don't think, for thinking those things. But at the end of the day, I was wrong. I don't think you were crazy for thinking those things. But I think some of the things you said and thought were wrong.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
There was a real concern that we might have seen the last of him playing well. And that certainly was not true. And I still think there's plenty left after this for him.
And you're not going to get 32 a game. But you also don't need – you hope that you don't need 32 a game from Kemba Walker. That's why he is considered the 3rd guy on this team.
Yeah, at a certain point, too, that was health or not, that was going to have to be the adjustment he was going to have to make anyway, because even if Kemba stayed healthy through the first year of his contract into the second year, Jaylen was going to reach a point somewhere along that line where he passed Kemba. Regardless of what Kemba was doing, just because of his size and abilities on the wing there, shooting, all that stuff. I can't wait. We're going to, I think probably tomorrow we'll pull up.
By the way, I'm putting up all these comments against me just so everybody knows.
What we actually need, I know Nick was watching, is we need Nick and an intern or somebody to just go through and just start.
All that crazy Kemba shit.
Clip through them. Yeah, just clip through them. You want to do? Yeah. Just clip, when we need to post that as the shorts. Nick loves the shorts, the YouTube shorts. We can do minute.
First of all, I'm going to take this comment here, Tyler, the host. There's not a freaking single person out there who at the beginning of the year and when they saw Kemba Walker playing like dog shit wasn't every bit as scared as I was times a million. Get him out. He's a bum. The whole friggin'
Trade Kemba.
Trade Kemba now. You are all frauds. You're all frauds. Right. Every freaking one of you. Okay, front runners. I don't want to hear it.
The chat is most guilty of anyone.
The correct emotion, the correct vibe was deep concern for a little guy who's 32 years old who had his knee flare up 3 times in 16 months. Really, really worrisome. Thank goodness he's playing well. But everybody, give me a freaking break with the apology stuff. You guys ran him out of town 15 times over already. Frauds, all of you. Frauds.
Not me.
Okay?
So Jimmy's done one. I've probably done 1 or 2. Has Joe Sway done? I don't think Joe Sway's done one. So
we'll get him one
Joe
of these
Sway
days.
and John, we're waiting.
There was a stretch, and we'll transition here, I think. Well, there was a stretch for a second where I thought we were going to get a double apology cam, Kemba and Neesmith. The way Neesmith actually showed up a little bit.
You're way off on the Neesmith stuff. I was driving the Neesmith bandwagon for months here.
You were, and then you drove it off a cliff.
I didn't drive it off the cliff. Neesmith drove it off the cliff. Okay, one tumble to the ground at a time,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Neesmith, we got a little peek at Neesmith draining a couple threes tonight, coming off of some screens and such, and he's got a pulse. Listen, Neesmith is not. I will say, Neesmith will not be in the playoff rotation. He won't be seen really much the rest of the year, but he does have a pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Smoking Mac.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's also not what I said, but that's fine.
Yeah, see how it gets twisted?
Okay, so everybody's a Boston fan, right? Everybody follows sports. You've seen what's happened to Dustin Pedroia and Julian Edelman, right? When they have degenerative knee conditions, it's bad. That's a concern.
They were a little older, though, weren't they?
Not by much, man. I mean, Pedroia was, but I mean, when that stuff started, that was it. You know?
Yeah, but Pedroia is a dirt dog, dude.
I know. Yeah. It didn't go well.
Loves that shit.
That arthritic, degenerative, bone-on-bone knee stuff didn't go well.
I do have one more thing here.
It rarely does.
It rarely does.
I got a little
you're
of
right.
that
It's
going
the
on,
beginning
actually.
of the end. Oh, you do?
Yeah, I can feel it in my knee.
Oh, no. We might be
I might have
sending
to
you to
call
Marigold.
Kemba's guy. Yeah, it's true. Marigold Medical. There we go. I'll go max on the horn.
Wait. We gotta.
Oh, jeez.
We gotta do it.
We got him in the sponsor. Yeah, we got the sponsor in his.
Okay, no, we're deep into the game. Locker room, it's a thing.
Oh, come get John tonight.
Come get me. Come on, frauds. All of you
right.
frauds. Every one of you. Bring it.
Apology voiceover.
Bring it.
Tonight.
Where are you guys?
I know everyone's too nice in the locker room.
Too nice. Bring it.
Way too nice.
Bring it. All the pro Kemba guys out there. Okay, we've got receipts. We can go back on the chat and pull your comments too. But yeah, bring it.
True.
Locker room, download the app. Come join us afterwards. We're gonna head over, in a little bit, and Sherrod and I'll start. Jimmy and Bobby will join us in a bit. Josue, who knows? He's kind of a fan.
That would be something. Maybe
a
nap through the snow.
I find myself just popping.
But come in and talk to
randomly
us. Talk to us afterwards. What's that?
Sometimes
Jimmy?
I just pop on a locker room without nothing to do. You guys, I'll just pop on and see what are people talking about right now.
Yeah.
Were you on the Ariana Grande versus Lady Gaga one or something like that? There was a room like that.
I
Oh,
missed that
Bobby,
one.
the fact that you were able to just kind of rattle that off with
sounds like you were on it.
hesitation. Sounds like you were there. So, Bobby, you tell us.
It was an option.
Bob was hosting it. Speaking of locker room, if you don't join locker room tonight, you better join before tomorrow because I heard there is a massive guest joining us tomorrow on Locker Room app.
That is also true. We're not going to tell you, and this isn't a fake tease.
It's not Nick either.
It's not Nick. It's not anybody in Nick's circle. But
thank God.
Honestly, if you miss it tomorrow, you're gonna kick yourself. And I'm not joking. This is we're holding the identity of the person for a little while longer. It's a freaking awesome guest, and you'll be bummed out if you don't join us because you're gonna want to talk to this person. And
that's the thing. You'll be able to. Well, not all of you, because I imagine we're going to get a good amount of people, but some people will actually be able to talk to this person. It's not like you're just watching them on TV or listening to them on the radio. You actually get to be a part of the conversation. So that's the unique part about it, which is pretty cool.
I like this one. It's going to be Danny demanding a Kemba apology, Cam.
A lot of people thought it was going to be smart, possible.
It's possible. Anyway, I'm not kidding.
Anyone could hop on, theoretically.
Join us on the show.
It is possible.
We'll tell you about it tomorrow. But it should be fun. But yeah, that's tomorrow. We're still gonna jump on there tonight.
It'll be Friday night, so maybe be a couple of drinks. It'll be after a big game, Celtics Nets. We'll see who suits up, but it'll be a big one.
I was bummed about that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We'll see how it goes. It is a bummer though. We're looking at no Kemba and possibly no Jaylen and possibly no Rob and possibly no Evan. This could be a disaster.
No Kemba, that's right.
Well, I believe Harden and Durant are going to be out on the other side too. So at the same time,
Harden is
right.
Durant too.
Yeah.
Well, he's dealing with a leg ailment.
We got robbed of a lot of good matchups this year.
This is a one thing you're looking at the Nets where you're wondering that they don't care deeply about.
I'm starting to get
season,
concerned for the first time about them.
They should be concerned over there, I think.
Yeah, there was a setback to Harden in his rehab, and now he's going to miss an indefinite amount of time. That might just be calling it until the playoffs. And even, they're going to be lined up with a team in the first round that's probably going to be a walkthrough. But who knows? I mean, there's a big mix of teams right now, and it could be even Boston falling into that mix for our first round series with them, where it could get
I'd
a little
love for it
tough
to
for
be
them.
the Knicks. Though the Knicks look too good for the 8th seed, but I'd love for a little.
Well,
Knicks
that's the point,
Nets.
Jimmy. There's like 5 teams right there that are all pretty good, and
Yeah.
someone has to fall into that 7 seed or 8 seed, depending on where Brooklyn ends up. I know
My
Philly
Pacers.
lost tonight, I think, so Brooklyn
they
and
lost
them are
by
tied.
6, I think.
Yeah, so them and Brooklyn are tied for that one. It's going to be a tight race up there at the top, but
Right.
again, I think some of these ailments, especially to Durant, are legitimately getting concerning for them.
Why are we certain, by the way, has Brad already said Kemba back-to-backs, no chance for tomorrow, or is there any chance we get surprised and he plays?
I think at this late stage of the season, they're not going to do that.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
He played out. He played pretty damn hard tonight. He played like a guy who knew he wasn't playing tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah, and Jaylen could. I don't know what the situation is with Jaylen, but it did seem like he gave an honest shot to go tonight. So I guess that probably is a relief that it won't be that long a thing. Maybe he bounces back in the lineup tomorrow.
Wait, did he really try? It sounded like he gave up immediately, where he's like, no chance.
Well, yeah, he gave it a chance. I don't know how well that went, but it did. So the way I think John Corrales looked into it a little bit, it did sound like that left shoulder bursitis could be a little more of a long-term thing there. I don't know, though. I don't know anything about it myself. You would probably know more than me, John.
The bursitis, no idea. But who did you say was concerned about it?
Corrales.
But based off of what, though? Based off of talking to medical people?
I don't know. He must have researched because he was on the call and he was saying this is more of a long-term thing, right? To Brad, and Brad was like, "Oh, give it a go tonight. We'll see."
I think it's going to nag you sort of thing, but you can play through it.
But it's his left one, right? So
yeah,
it's not the shooting one.
No, it's the guider.
Yeah.
But I mean, this could be one of those things where you just rest it. You could splint it. You could friggin' take injections, but it all depends, like it could be traumatic, where you like, it was based off of something that you like a contact sort of thing. It can be something that's just chronic. I mean, it's really hard to say just saying bursitis. They didn't give anything, but the fact that they're saying day to day makes it sound like it's nagging.
Well, some people thought it was pain from the vaccine, and I think that very clearly turned out to be wrong.
Well, I mean, for anybody who's experienced that dead arm, I mean, again, I don't know if you would refer to that as bursitis. It's pretty friggin' bad.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's immobilizing. So again, I don't know.
It affects everybody differently, I guess, obviously.
I'm saying the people who had it, like
who had what? A shot?
Who've had the dead arm, the ones who've experienced it. It's like hanging. I had it. It's hanging by your side. I couldn't lift it like that.
Well, you're a NARP.
Yeah.
You're a NARP, non-athletic regular person. So of course you would walk around dead arm.
No, Nick had it too. What does he count as?
No, if you're grouping yourself with Nick, look out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick couldn't live. Luckily, he doesn't need to. So he was probably nothing changed in his day.
Yeah.
It was interesting that a couple guys missed games with illnesses. Jaylen was among them to miss that Saturday game.
And they did all get vaccinated. So it's not, the illnesses could have been post-vaccine thing. Nobody knows, though. It's impossible to it's impossible to say.
So everyone reacts differently to that stuff anyway. So. Yeah.
My big concern right now is the Rob one. So this has been 4 straight games now that he's missed. Inflammation behind the knee is what Brad said about it. I'm sure that's another one that's just overcautious and trying to make sure that he fully recovers before he gets back. But he tried to give it a go in practice yesterday, and I guess that did not go well either. As you said, the Jaylen one went when he was trying to get back into the fold. They were pretty confident that he was going to be able to get back by the end of this week, and it now seems like I wouldn't expect him out there tomorrow either.
Boomer arm indeed.
Oh boy,
he's down for the count.
I love it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Worried about Rob.
So they all got the vaccine? Sorry, we're off.
I'm officially worried about Rob.
I am too.
I wasn't at first, but I am now.
Yeah, I mean, the longer he stays out, the greater my worry level becomes, because I know how important he is to them, and I know how important it is for Rob to be in a rhythm. And the more games he misses, the harder it is and the longer it'll take for him to get back into that great flow that he was in when he was playing starter-like minutes. It's concerning because Tristan, I think, is doing a good job, but they're a much better team when Rob Williams and Tristan Thompson are both playing in their own rhythm. And right now, when Rob comes back, it's going to take him a minute to get back into a good flow.
I don't know.
Maybe the minutes piled up. Maybe they were right about that thing.
But he wasn't playing huge minutes. He was playing like low end starter minutes.
Exactly. I mean, it's still pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't playing 35, 38 minutes.
If he got hurt at 24 minutes, he was getting hurt at 19. You know, like that's what, when we were crying for more minutes, we're like, it's the same exact thing. It's like, we're not asking for a lot. You're saying play 24 minutes instead of 17 minutes. It wasn't like nobody's asking for 40. It was like, how is Rob playing 16 minutes a night when he's your best center? That was the perplexing thing.
That's just one of a handful of things about him where I'm like, why did he go 27? Why do teams not value him the way we do here? There's just something there about him, and I do think a lot of it is health based, where teams are a little worried about him, like the fragility factor there. And he held up so well for almost all of this year, and now this does seem to be something that's going to nag him. And again, I just wish he could stay healthy.
Weird. He didn't look at all limited.
Never.
The final game he played.
Wasn't it shoulder that was the concern about his, or did it
hip?
Hip. And now it's knee.
It's all lower body with him. And again, he came into the draft with something impacting the blood flow in his lower body, and that was going to be a concern throughout his career. I don't know. There's just something weird there when it comes to his ability to stay on the court and play significant minutes. Again, I don't think Brad was just BSing there saying, oh, we're stringing him along carefully here because he actually didn't want to play him. I think there's real medical concerns when it comes to his stability and ability.
I think that's freaking nonsense. A knee thing flaring up has nothing to do with with a hip issue, which is legitimate. Danny
Ainge is just against against all the medical reports, and he's the only guy who just wanted to take a risk on Rob out of 30 teams.
Well, he's done that before.
He just doesn't believe that.
There's a big difference between picking a guy at 10 with concerns like that versus 27, where who else are you going to be picking? It'll be a second-round prospect there. I think at a certain point it becomes a no-brainer. Just take a flyer.
Why? If they can never play the guy like you're saying. I mean, he can't go more than 10 minutes a game.
Because other guys that you would potentially take at that point in the draft, you can't play at all because they suck. Whereas with Rob, you just have to minimize his minutes. And again, taking him at 27, hell yeah, I think almost any team at that point in the draft with him on the board would have done the same thing.
I remember
he's worth it.
I remember that night. I could not believe he made it there. I was starting to look at his name like 6 or 7 picks before. And, oh no.
The karma.
That's so true. You did this.
It's your fault.
Oh, no.
They misheard you.
I love it.
Again, though, 0 games where the Celtics have had full health this year. It's just absurd. I don't. Yeah. That has to be the first time in franchise history that's ever happened if they end up going through and having a guy missing every single night of the season.
1981 it happened a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah. And 85, actually, yeah.
All right. I'll take your word.
I have no idea.
He was absolutely bullshitting.
Those were good years. They probably never had games for players.
Now, if that was Nick saying that, I would have believed it. He's probably
Nick probably does know.
Scores.
I think it was the Bill Russell years. Yeah, that's what it was.
They had
greatest to ever do it.
They had a great medical staff back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Nick's watching reel to reel of the Russell era Celtics at home.
Microfilm. He's looking at.
He's just winding his film. He's actually going to turn the projector.
Yeah.
So you know what I'll never get about that? Why is there so much footage of back then, but the 100-point game they don't have one? That just never made any sense to me. They don't even have a clip from that game. The Wilt
Did
one.
It happen? Are you saying that maybe it didn't happen, Bob?
Well, I went to the place where it happened, and I'm just like, did this happen?
No evidence?
Yeah.
No signs of Wilt?
No sign of Wilt, no sign of life.
What about the moon landing? Did that happen?
I feel good about that one.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Jurassic Bob.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk about it a ton, but just anybody worried at all about
Tuscalano? I've never heard that one before.
The commenters are getting fed up with you, Jimmy.
That's a shot.
No, they're tired of me. Tatum.
Again?
Pretty weird to go 3 of 17 consecutive games, right? That's a strange shooting line.
By weird, you mean bad? Yeah, really bad.
Yeah,
and weird. Yeah, especially when it's a top 10 player in the NBA. You don't want to see that one time. Never mind 3.
I don't want to make anything out of it outside of just, okay, back-to-back shooting games. It's just so strange after it's so bizarre after the, oh my God, biggest stage, best game of the year by far, 44 points, friggin' killer Tatum, to come back with this again. Because what's weird is sandwiched around that 16 for 25 is a 6 for 14 against the Lakers where he scored 14 points. Then back-to-back 3 of 17s. Really weird. Especially, and again, in and around a time where he's been, a few games before that was a 53, a 32, a 28. So the hot and cold is a little odd on the shots here for him to be this ice cold. So I'll just ask the question again. Nothing to be concerned about, just an off night, or something you saw, Sherrod? Anything in the way he approached tonight?
No, I'm not concerned.
I'm not at all. I'm just wondering. Yeah,
if he's getting the shots that he normally gets and they're just not falling, then shit, they're just not falling. Because when you start looking at his body of work, he's got a lot of games where he shot high 50, low 60% from the field, and over time that stuff's going to average out. So he was due to have a stretch where he'd have a couple of not so great nights. I love the fact that he's doing 2 things. 1, he's getting to the boards even though he's not making shots, and 2, he's getting to the free throw line. He's had 8 attempts each of the last 3 games. And if you look at his body of work this year, Jayson Tatum has not had that stretch at all this season. He's never had 3 games where he's had at least 8 free throws attempts. So he's at least figuring out a way to impact the game offensively, even though he's maybe not knocking down shots.
So it seems like when he has these nights, though, he's going to keep shooting and he's going to try to push his way out of it. And there's been a handful of those where he never escaped. I don't think they happen as much as a Harden or a Westbrook. Like when they really start jacking it gets ridiculous, especially upwards of 24 to 35 times. So I'm fine with 17 to try to work your way out of it. But you do kind of have to reach a point at some night where you either do different things, as you said, and he ultimately did tonight, or start to defer to some other guys, which I actually think he did a good job with tonight as well. So this one bothered me less than the Bulls one. The Bulls one, I think went too far in trying to work his way out of it and ended up stagnating the offense a little bit. But overall, for him too, this has been a phenomenal month overall for him across the board when it comes to his overall production. And this actually was one of his better defensive performances I've seen all year. So he made up for it in other ways tonight, certainly.
I thought he did a lot well. He just kind of kept trying to shoot his way out of trouble from long range instead of be a little bit more aggressive. But also it felt like Phoenix put all their attention on him tonight. So it was hard for him to maneuver. So I think he took that pull-up 3 whenever he had it, but they were sending a couple guys out at him. So I don't know that he could have been super aggressive getting to the basket. He was getting blitzed a lot tonight.
Yeah, it felt like they pretty much were like, take Tatum out of the game. And that was the game. That was
make Kemba beat you, and he did. Or make someone else beat you. That clearly was their mentality, and honestly, it
Brown,
should be
double Tatum and pray that Grant plays 40.
Yeah,
and they didn't realize that Kemba was going to go off tonight, and he did, and that's the difference. And they were cold too on their own end. They were cold, so I didn't feel like there were tons of occasions where I was like, oh my God, Tatum, you're killing them right now. Like there wasn't a ton of shots that were out of flow. There were a couple quick ones, but
they just didn't fall.
They just didn't fall, and it happens, and you move on. Like, he's going to go for 40 in a couple in the next
8 free throws too. That's important. He's been doing that all month too. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna give a teeny bit of attention to our boy Romeo.
And that was talking Romeo. All right, what else we got?
Huh? Romeo.
That was talking Romeo.
Romeo.
Romeo, What is there to say about
No,
Romeo?
for real. I mean, right now, defensively, I feel as good about him as I do almost anybody on the team. He's just
Solid.
almost invisible on the offensive end again.
And it's not as if they're like not looking for him to be involved. It's just that he's not making things happen when they turn to him. And it's, I go back to the Chicago game where he had that open three late in the game, and then they were able to keep the possession alive. And then he had the short, like 8-footer in the lane, and he shot at 6 feet. Yeah. Those are the things that frustrate me about Romer. He has to get to the point where when you have open shots, more times than not, you make them. Your defense is going to give you opportunities to get on the floor, but in order to stay on the floor, you got to make open shots.
He had another tonight where he had it on the left, left side of the court, and he drove, and he was there. He was in the lane, but it looked like never in his thought process did he ever think, when I start dribbling towards the basket, I might end up shooting.
Right.
And then he got to the paint, and he could have easily gone up for a real easy 6-8 footer, or continued towards the basket if he wanted to, and he just kind of kicked it out to somebody for a three, because again, I just don't think he's thinking of himself as a person who's supposed to try and do stuff offensively. I don't know if that's going to come or not, but the defense is outstanding. There's no question about it. He's going to stay on the court. The reason I keep bringing him up, there's something about him right now that the guy who sees him play the most out of anybody, or the guy who's closest, to the only person, who can make a determination whether or not he deserves minutes, clearly thinks he deserves minutes right now. That has to say something. It says to me that Brad thinks there might be more there than just a guy who plays defense and does nothing else. But we still haven't seen it.
Right, but you know what?
Yeah, but I mean, the thinking behind that is your team has started to play better because your team has started to play better defense. So you need to do a job as a coach of getting the guys out there who are as close as you can have to being consistently good at that end of the floor. That's why Romeo's playing. Romeo could go out there and go 0 for whatever, but if he continues to make an imprint defensively, Brad is going to keep rolling him out there.
I think there's a sense, too, that the Celtics, rather, don't want these guys doing too much. You saw with Semi in a spot start from him getting a little too exuberant on that end of the floor, trying to push some fast breaks, getting a little too aggressive on the ball. And I don't think they honestly want Langford running a ton of pick and roll. I know I saw out there that he had flashes in that aspect of the game a couple nights ago, and I saw a few here or there. But honestly, at this point in his career and this point in his recovery, you don't want him doing too much out there. I just wish, and this is what I've liked about Parker so far, just simple cuts. Just cut to the basket, and guys are going to find you. I don't think any of the Celtics young guys do that nearly enough. Langford's probably on the high end of that, but him, Grant, Semi, you're not going to have the ball in your hands a ton. You're never going to be in a spot on this team where you're a lead ball handler, lead creator. So you're going to have to find other ways to fit in if you want to ever survive on this team. And for Parker to come in 3 games, be doing that at a high level, I mean, what has Parker done on the ball? Almost nothing. Everything's been cutting, finding open lanes, getting out in the fast break. So I look at Langford and Grant and Neesmith and all these guys, and it's just like you give them some leeway for being young and all that stuff, but at the same time, you have to get where your offense is going to come from, or else you're just going to be a zero out there standing in the corner.
I was thinking about Sherrod had given a good comp, of Avery Bradley as someone for Romeo, which I thought was pretty good. Another person I was thinking about just in terms of who he might grow up to be that might be more apt is Evan Turner. And so because we were talking about it,
Evan Turner, though, he was like commanding on offense a little bit. He would show up.
But it took him a while. I mean, he was in bust territory a couple of years into the league because obviously he didn't live up to his college billing. And again, Romeo's a guy who had a super high pedigree, disappointing first year at Indiana, but is a guy who's supposed to score. But the outside shot just never came. And I don't know whether it will or won't for Romeo. It doesn't look like he's got the best stroke. I think he can get it to be okay. But I think he's a guy who can get places with the basketball and should be able to get into the lane, make some of those small mid-range ones, get to the bucket. I think he can finish a lot better than Turner could around the bucket. But Turner just made all of his bones just kind of getting just little open spots.
Turner had a bag, though. Turner had moves. He could dribble.
Nice in between game.
He did, but he developed. Like I said, I'm not comparing them entirely. I think
this is like Jimmy's Aaron Gordon comparison.
This one actually makes sense.
That was on point.
Yeah.
Actually, Parker wears 20. You should put a little point in between that 2 and 0. Put Gordon on the back of it, and you got Gordon 2.0. But let me say this about Romeo. You want to talk about bad starts to your career? That's about as bad, unlucky of a start to your NBA career as you can have as Romeo Langford. Hurt to start the year, came back mid-year, jumping into the middle of things, has no idea what his role is. COVID hits, they're off for 3 months or whatever it is, comes back in the bubble, obviously way out of sorts, doesn't play, no off season, and it's really just an extension of a shitty rookie year for Romeo Langford is what this is. And his first year, his rookie year, he didn't have any sort of offensive flow to his game either. He never was taking, big shots during the game. He had one game, I looked at his game log, he had one game of double-digit shots, which is amazing. I thought he had 0. He took 11 shots one game in a win over the Hawks. Other than that, though, I mean, this is like Bobby just said, he's the type of player that needs to just do his thing off the ball, get open in ways that he can, move off the ball, cut, whatever it is. You're not getting plays drawn up for you. You don't want to be – nobody wants you to be the guy that's taking shots to begin with. And right now, I think you just need to get to the offseason. All these young guys in the Celtics just need to get to the offseason, get a full offseason in there, and actually become a part of the offense so that they're not in there strictly for defensive reasons, which is why Romeo's in there, John. I mean, you commend his defense, rightfully so. He's in there as a defensive guy only. They're not asking him to score a single point.
And people are saying Evan couldn't defend. I'm not saying he could, and I'm not comparing the guys. I'm saying offensively, if he's going to arrive, he's going to arrive as a person who's doing a lot of his stuff in kind of those mid to intermediate, areas of the basket. He's going to use his ability to get to the lane or get to the rim or get into the paint, and he's going to have to develop that kind of game because I don't think he's going to be I don't think he's a 3-and-D stand in the corner sort of guy. I don't think that's where he's going to make his impact if he does offensively. I think he has to be more aggressive. He has to look for it. He has to be a bit of a slasher, which means he's got to recognize the moments where he's got a matchup or he's, he gets the ball on a swing and he's got to step and he's got to attack more aggressively. He's not doing that right now.
No, I mean, I think the key to him unlocking that part of his game is just becoming a better ball handler. That's something I know in this upcoming offseason, it has to be priority number 1 for him. He already is physically strong enough to hold his own out there.
Yeah.
His ability to get from point A to point B handling the ball is going to open things up for himself. It's going to open things up for his teammates, and it's going to create more of an opportunity for him to play for Brad and actually play both ends of the floor as opposed to being really good defensively and a non-factor Casper the Friendly Ghost style on offense.
Right. And it's a lot of minutes to be playing to be that much of a zero on offense. He played 32 minutes tonight? 32 minutes tonight, it's just, to make that little of an impact, and it's not just shooting, 0 assists. He's just not doing anything with the ball in his hands.
I just don't like his offense right now. And even if he does become a better ball handler, there's so many in front of him on this roster that it's like they need some guys who are capable of doing some things without the ball. Like Grant, you can look at Grant and say, if they give him 3 to 5 post-ups a night, he'll look much better. He's just not going to get that on this roster. Semi, they could put the ball in his hands more and send him downhill to the basket, but they just don't want to give Semi 7 shots. At some point, if you're coming into this league as a role player, you can't be contingent. Your success can't be contingent on massive amounts of opportunity. And this is Neesmith too. It kind of stinks that you're going to come into these games and have 3 shots decide your night, but that's where you are on this roster. And, part of that comes back to the Celtics and finding guys who fit those spots on the roster better when it comes to draft picks. And some of it is on these guys to, Romeo Langford, I think, is a guy who his whole life has had to make things happen on the ball, been the best players on his teams, and had massive amounts of opportunity. now as long as he's in Boston, I don't think he's ever going to have that.
All right. I'm gonna tell everybody one more time here. We do have our locker room situation happening, and we're gonna be heading over there very soon. So again, if you haven't downloaded the app already, please do come join us in the chat. Give me crap about Kemba. Give me crap about Rob. Talk to Sherrod because he's famous, and you should be taking advantage of this opportunity to talk to him and ask him to come on your podcast and make friends with him. And if you're a student, maybe grade grub a little bit. It's almost grade time here.
That's right. Extra. Hey, Sherrod, you should be offering like some sort of extra credit if they prove that they've downloaded the app and they joined one of our shows. They need to screen grab it, and they should get like maybe 5 points in their final exam.
Yeah.
No,
I'm gonna guarantee you two extra credit points if you're Sherrod's student.
I'll put in a good word for you. Yeah.
And you send me proof of it. I'll work behind the scenes to get you those 2 points. Okay.
I might actually. Yeah.
I'll give my students that. If any of you guys out there, for now or future students of mine,
we're seeing the difference between Professor Sherrod and Professor John.
I'm ready to sell it.
And I think
Professor
I'm
John,
going to sign up to be a teacher now that you guys are. I'll have to find a course somewhere to teach. And maybe
me and Jimmy are going to become high school teachers.
Oh,
we
gosh.
Yeah. No, high schoolers are mean, dude. I don't think I could survive high school again.
You couldn't, Jimmy. I
don't think we're ready for college, Jimmy.
Yeah.
No, college,
might
dude.
turn us away.
These two guys are teaching college, dude. We can teach college. Anyone can teach college.
All right. I guess we'll have to give it a try. We'll start canvassing.
You've seen some of these. You've seen some of the curriculums.
People are asking here. Sherrod teaches at BU. I teach at Emerson. Okay, we're molding young minds in the journalism and communications fields. Okay,
and
I bet some of the commenters find that interesting.
I will be teaching at Suffolk fall of 2022. So be on the lookout for that.
Oh God, please say it ain't true.
Yeah, I'll be teaching. No, I mean I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna make sure it happens.
Yeah. So extra credit for everybody.
I'm gonna talk to Professor Price.
Teaching.
Sean, I know Professor Price.
You know Price well. He's a Syracuse
guy. And I will
kibosh
that immediately.
I'm gonna have to talk to Professor Price, and I'm gonna have to get myself a course over.
All right. So if we don't have it,
new media.
Someone put the link in the chat, please, and then pin it if you can. And people are asking me questions. What's my favorite band? You guys can ask me on Locker Room. I promise I will tell you. But
riveting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess The Who.
Wow,
it's a boomer guess. I don't know. I just figured.
Boomer guess.
I thought you were gonna say something like the Beatles.
Bruce Springsteen. I don't know. He's a good one.
That's a good one.
I like Bruce. Anyway, let's
room's starting to fill up a little bit. People are getting in there already.
In Locker Room?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So we're gonna head over real quick before we do. Sherrod, any final thoughts on tonight before you and I head over?
No, good win, great Kemba action. They need to keep it going. Obviously, we won't see him tomorrow night, but the more times you can get Kemba playing like this, the better the Celtics are going to be, the better Kemba's going to be, and a better chance they've got to actually go beyond the first round of the playoffs. Let's go.
Oh, hi guys.
Oh,
okay.
You caught him. You caught him slipping.
Got him.
No, I had to adjust my. I almost ran out of battery. All right, so Jimmy and Bobby are going to hang here a little bit. We're going to head over now.
Damn.
Hey guys,
talk about. All right,
guys. When I text you, come on over, guys. Bring it. Okay.
Bring it, boys and girls.
Bring it, boys. Later.
All right, let's do this.
All right, let's.
We're all in.
If you have some questions for us, drop them in the chat right now. We're going to go a few minutes before we head over to the locker room, and if questions don't get answered here, and you have the Locker Room app, we'll definitely do our best to answer them over there. So that being said, what do you got, Bob? What's going on?
Not a ton. I mean, like there is some sad news floating around tonight, but I don't think I'm going to mention it because I just don't know enough about it yet. So I'm gonna.
There's a lot of
unless
comments.
you got anything to say about that one, then I just don't have much right now to talk about.
You can mention what the rumors are if you want. Oh, did I lose Bobby? I might be the only one in here now. Wow. Okay, so I think we. Did I just lose you, dude? you
I got
back?
you. Yep, I'm back. All right.
All right, don't do that again, man. You just scared me. I was like the kid at the cash register, like waiting for his mom went to go get something, and she's like,
No, I'm always unprepared for that switch over. I got to jump on the board here, and then I get muted and this and
dude,
that.
I was
But it
like,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
my mom just went to get one last thing, and like the cashier's looking at me, and there's people in line behind me, and I'm like, yo,
You got to be ready. Like Joe, when that happens to Joe Sway, he embraces that moment. He just jumps into the
no,
solo
I
seat.
heard that he did not. He had no idea what he was doing in that moment.
So I see
idea.
people saying it. Really, all I know is that Terrence Clarke, a Boston high school basketball player who went on to Kentucky and was a prospect in this NBA draft, died in a car crash tonight. And the Celtics mentioned it. So I believe it's been confirmed at this point that he passed away tonight at probably 19, 20 years old. So just an absolute tragedy
19.
out in LA. Yeah, so prayers up to him. I know BJ Boston was involved in some way, who was a teammate of LeBron James's son, who I watched quite a bit because he was always on high school basketball at the time. They were putting those games on ESPN, of course, and he was seriously injured, according to these reports. So, again, best to him, best to the Clarke family, as well as the people in Boston who knew him and were connected to him. It's just a horrible, horrible news. And really a lot of bad news in the country the last couple months, and it's just tough to see this kind of stuff happening week in and week out. But that's all I really get on it now. I just don't know a ton about what happened.
It. I mean, it's strictly news from us. I mean, we're certainly not going to comment on speculation. I mean, it's horrible that it happened or if it happened, and I know that he had just declared for the NBA draft, 1 year at Kentucky.
Yeah, Woj confirmed it 4 minutes ago, so
yeah,
Clarke
so there you go.
did die at 19.
It's awful. I mean, it's you can't even put it into words. It's way bigger than basketball. Just a young kid like that, gone just like that with all the talent. I think he had just announced he was declaring for the draft. I think they just hired an agent. So
I had read too that he was a guy who would work out with Tatum and Brown over the last few years of his high school career, since they were all in the Boston area, and he had been notable at the high school level already. So that's just terrible.
Academy. Yep.
Yeah.
Brewster Academy, and just awful. So definitely thoughts are with the families and everybody involved in that right there. So that's
so
tough.
We won't stick around here for too long. We'll take a couple questions. The only guy we didn't hit on tonight that I wanted to talk about with you some more is Jabari Parker, who continues to get minutes on this team.
You mean AG 2.0?
No. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can you take that back now? Let's
absolutely not. I'll double down. I'm going to retweet my tweet when the time comes. I'm going to retweet it from when it actually happened. But
I think I still have the apology cam here, but I can't find it.
No, it's not happening. Don't worry about that.
So here's my thing about him. I said it during the show. I love that he's cutting and finding ways to get involved, and his teammates clearly trust him already in that sense. He's been efficient because he's just shooting at the basket. But he looks slow. He can't get off the ground. There was one play where he tried to chase a guy down and couldn't even get up off the ground to try to block it from behind. And the verticality and athleticism in his game just seems to be all but gone. And I know our commenters have talked quite a bit about his weight. So, I hope
out to me.
I hope there's some level of sustainability there, because he does not look good physically, even though he's finding ways to chip in.
Well, again, I think, and I've mentioned it a few times, but being in the situations that he was in, it would be very easy for any player to fall into a bit of a rut, physically, mentally, affect your game. I mean, whether it's the injuries, whether it's the role, the team, the organization that you're on, just being relegated to a complete bench, non-playing role in Sacramento, I mean, that put 20 pounds on anybody. I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? You're out in California, food's great, all that stuff, and you're not playing a second. You're in an organization that clearly doesn't really care much about you at all. Coach that doesn't believe in you. And now he's in an organization with the Celtics that I think we can all say that they see something in him enough where that they committed, the rest of the season and next season to an extent. Obviously, it's a non-guaranteed deal, but if he wants to put in the work and show the growth and the improvement with his game and with his conditioning, those are things that to me are going to come. At the end of the day, he's a professional athlete. He had all the hype in the world coming into the league. Unfortunately, tore his ACL and had some other injuries and bad playing situations. And now I think he's got kind of a second life here in the NBA. And I think that Nick's got it. He can still dunk. He can still throw it down. He does have to drop a little bit of pounds. But if he gets on a workout program, kind of gets involved in the whole practice facility in Boston and maybe sticks around in the offseason, I think this guy could be a nice little steal. I compared him to Evan Turner, like that type of signing where it's a buy extremely low, turn your career around type signing. And I think that he has that capability.
Well, the Celtics were in an interesting position where they couldn't reasonably add on another star who needs a bunch of ball time and starting minutes and that kind of, that's the kind of stuff we talked about with Drummond. Like there just isn't the level of room and space here for him to operate because there's a ton of centers on the roster already. But when it came to wings on this roster, especially when Fournier went down with COVID protocol, there was so much room for improvement there. We've talked about, again, we talk about Romeo Neesmith, all this stuff every night, Jimmy, but it just comes down to like two shots and like a couple plays on the defensive end. And there's so much room for so much more. And already in 3 games, Jabari has done more cutting, more finishing, and more activity on offense than all those other guys combined. And I know I'm a Grant fan on the defensive side of the floor, but I won't dispute at all Parker fits so much better in this offense than Grant does. And that's without shooting any threes. I mean, Parker has basically said, I'm going to do everything from 12 feet and in, and it's working.
I agree with you. It is working. And and this is exactly what I think when you're the difference is Parker's been in the league, certainly hasn't played the way that he's wanted to.
Well, doesn't that say something?
Right. He's been in the league, kind of knows, but he kind of knows he doesn't have the rookie, wide eye feel or the young guy. He's not really like looking up to guys or wondering or cowering to like, not cowering is not the right word, but sort of just like watching.
He knows what he is.
He knows what he is. He knows what he has to do. He knows what's going to get him on the court. And he's already accepting that role this season. And he probably understands that he can build on that role going into next season because he is, like you said, a player that they don't have any cap room to sign these, big guys and, big contract. They need to take a flyer on a guy that's sort of a legitimate buy low candidate and see what they can turn him into. And I think that's exactly what they need. And they need guys who are going to be those role players, cutting guys and off ball guys and, find the open man type player. So I think he does fill a need there. And I think he honestly might be an end of rotation guy in the playoffs. You start to think about nine-man rotation, right? Type of a number. Usually I go at 9 in the playoffs. And when you start saying about that, you say, well, maybe Grant's out. Neesmith's obviously out. Romeo might be out. Parker seems like a guy that might actually find himself in it more than some of these other guys that have been on the team all season.
So that's where it's going to get tricky. I think if they're fully healthy, which
that's what I'm saying. If they're fully healthy,
I think if we can assume at this point they're probably not going to be because they haven't been all year long. So if they're fully healthy, I think it's those 3 wings, Fournier off the bench, a bench big, and you pretty much push everybody all the way. And Pritchard probably plays a few minutes too behind Kemba. Pritchard. But I don't think you'll see any Parker, Grant, Romeo, Neesmith, Semi.
It would just be like random matchup, like spot, like searching for something. Like something's not working, let's throw Parker in there or let's throw Grant in there.
Yeah. Now, if they lose Fournier for any reason or, Smart goes down with a minor injury, then all of a sudden you're asking, are you leaning on Parker for extra minutes? Does Grant come into play? I think that becomes a much tougher decision in that sense because every minute you play those guys in the playoffs is going to matter a ton. And if you choose the wrong guy out of those 4 or 5, that could swing a game in the wrong direction. And the bad thing about Parker is that he can do enough bad things on the defensive end where suddenly those couple buckets that he might be able to get on Grant end up not meaning as much because he committed a foul or he blew a cut action or just did some stuff on the defensive end that kills them. So that's what worries me about this team. Even with adding him, I still think they're in such bad shape if they have to rely on their bench too much in the playoffs.
Right. I want to say, I want to talk about one more thing before we go. What the hell happened with the Tristan Thompson fight tonight? It wouldn't be the Garden Report if we didn't at least mention this.
Yeah.
I don't think we have.
Or speculate.
Yeah, or speculate. So I watched I obviously saw it live at the end, but I didn't catch the replay, but I just watched it again now. He's really pissed. I wouldn't say he's pissed, but he's yelling at Craig, trash, like you're absolute trash, pretty much. which
should I try to pull up the video? I know I'm always great at this.
yeah, this is going to be a disaster, but
we can break it down frame by
Tristan
frame.
Thompson and Torrey Craig, and I have no idea what it was about. I mean, it would have been great if it was Thompson and Booker, because then we could have assumed that there was some sort of Kardashian backstory there that we didn't know about. But
all right, this is great. We have crystal clear video from Chris Grenham, old friend of the network, who is always so great with this. So I'm going to pull it up here, and we're going to break it down frame by frame.
On the screen share. I don't know what your tabs look like right now.
All right, here we go. Hopefully this is crystal clear and everyone can take it in.
Yeah, we can see it. Okay, he's circling them. They're John. Okay, it's skipping a bit.
So Thompson's
trash. He's yelling trash. Ooh,
so it is tough to tell, but Thompson's the one who definitely ramps it way up.
Yeah. Craig said something to get under his skin. I don't know what it could have been, but Thompson took exception to it for sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if those guys did if something happened during the game that led to that or what.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see what initiated it. And Craig didn't play a ton.
No,
I don't know.
Of course he didn't, because he's trash.
I saw some people compare it to Marcus Morris, which is great, because I thought one of the best thing about the 2018 Celtics on their run to the East Finals is that Morris was always ready to get in a guy's face, scream on the LeBron dunk, do stuff like that to just get into the other team. And ultimately, if Rob's healthy, Tristan might be the guy who's able to take a technical there and risk possibly picking up a second later in the game. Now, if they only have him as the center, he'll probably have to be a little more careful with that stuff. But I do love having that kind of guy on the roster who's willing to just go at other guys.
You need it. You don't want to be the team that gets punked. You want a guy that's going to push his body around there, get in your face, get in your grill, and talk right back to you. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like since Thompson came back from his COVID thing, that he's like been a different type of player. Like the energy's been higher. Like the production's been great for the most part. I feel like he's giving it a lot more. I don't want to say effort, but it does feel like he's giving it a lot more intensity than we saw the first.
He looks better physically too.
He looks better physically. He looks more engaged out there, and he's fired up. I mean,
again, he's blocking shots and he's dunking. We didn't even think he was able to do those things. His feet.
Right.
Yeah, early in the year.
I don't know if it was a little fun. Maybe a little fun in the sun while he was away. I don't know what it was, but he came back.
Well, he went through a conditioning program after he got activated from that COVID list. So maybe that week or so, they were just running wind sprints and suicides and stuff just to get him up to max strength there. But this month, he's been awesome, particularly on that defensive side of the floor. And finally, I think by the end of this year, I'm going to be victorious on that take that he was the right guy to bring in here, because if you look at Indiana, Miles Turner probably just went down for the season with a foot injury. So he got off to a great start, but it's Thompson who's peaking at the right time here. And you're starting to see the things that I know you were a supporter of the signing too. We got so excited about. This looks like the Cleveland version of Tristan Thompson. The only gripe I have is the finishing. He's got to finish some of those shots at the basket.
Agree. But yeah, I'm happy with what he's given them. We can go back and forth on if it was the right signing, but that ship has sailed. It's like the Kemba. It's like Kemba's on your team. He's getting paid what he's getting paid. You just want to see the production now. So that's what you're kind of getting from Thompson. I still obviously know that they need Rob, because Thompson's not going to be enough to do it. You don't have Tice anymore. You're going to need all hands on deck, depending on who you're ending up matching up with in the playoffs. But it's good to see Thompson sort of rounding into form here as they come down, that final stretch of regular season. This is when you want your guys to start to look their best, is right when you're heading into the playoffs. A lot of times it's the hottest team. It's not always the best team. You want to be the team that's playing well together going into the playoffs. So if they can get healthy and get right, then maybe they can go on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll be able to have it, but they were doing some things with that Thompson-Grant bench combination there that I loved defensively when they were getting into the second units when they were a little more healthy. So Rob's obviously going to be the key to all of this. I do agree with some of these commenters who say if it's just Thompson come playoff time, that's not going to look nearly as great, especially over the course of 35, 40 minutes. He'll probably even start to foul a little too much, and Lord knows they have absolutely nothing behind him if Rob's out. So That's it. We'll jump over to the locker room. We're going to take a bunch of questions. We're going to try to entice people to go at John and help us bully him.
People are probably going at him as we speak, so I want to get over there. But I want to remind everybody watching that tomorrow, if you can't get on the locker room app tonight, you're going to want to be on tomorrow. So download it now. Download it tomorrow during the day. We're going to go live right after our Garden Report show tomorrow with a very special guest. And the cool thing about locker room is you can request to speak, and you'll be able to speak to the special guest. You can even speak to Bobby if you, for some reason, want to. I don't know why you would, but you could. But our special guest will be on tomorrow with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's Friday night. We're going to be shooting the shit. Hopefully the Celtics will take the W. I don't know who's going to be playing in that game or if it even matters if they win, if no one's playing. But, it's always fun when you get Kyrie against the Celtics. So that'll be a nice little added bonus. Kyrie masterclass. Kyrie will not. I think it's safe to say it's not Kyrie joining us tomorrow after the game, although he's certainly welcome to if he wants to.
Here's an interesting one. I wonder if our comments just misspell names on purpose. Like, it's so bad.
It's not tackle fall. No, I've made that mistake before. There is a K in tackle. But I will say this, and maybe he said it because I said it in the past. I've seen tackle fall on Locker Room. He's been on the Locker Room app before. Not with us, but that's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities. So these guys, these players, these athletes, and I'm sure you'll see eventually, maybe celebrities will be hopping on. So
we'll start to work on that. That's what I want. I want to talk to Taco and some of these guys that are on the team right now. And maybe if we get a guy like Grant, you guys will have to do it to his face. No more of this.
Shall see.
No more of this firing through the lips.
What do here? All right, we're out of here. We'll talk to you guys.
I can't
tomorrow.
wait to line up John against one of those guys. All right, we'll see.